Okay, we're back on air. I can let everyone know that we had already started the meeting. We'd had a closed session, and we have reconvened from that closed session. In that closed session, we talked about personnel matters. So now we are actually at item D of your agenda, which, if you'll please rise, we'll have the invocation, lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for the many blessings we have received as a city. Tonight, as we deliberate the issues, we ask for a portion of your wisdom and your guidance. During this special Christmas season, we ask for your presence and that it be felt by those who serve our military in foreign lands, especially as they're away from their families, and for those that have returned home, your blessings upon their families and their time together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Mayor, before we get started, if I could have Councilman Green, Councilman Freeman, and Councilman Southpaw join me at the podium. And the board, electoral board. We have Tammy Pinkney, our registrar, and Bonnie Condry, secretary of the electoral board, who will present their certificates of election.
Do you want to do anything with them first? Or just give them straight?
You give them that, and then I'll swear them in.
Thank you.
Is there anything you need to say, Bonnie? Okay, all right. I'm going to give your oaths individually, and I'll start with Carrie. If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me and say your name after I say aye. I
Carrie Freeman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the State of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Poquoson City Council,
as a member of the Poquoson City Council,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Okay. Carrie, you sign that for me. Okay. May I have Councilman Green?
All right.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and say your name,
I, Herbert R. Green, Jr.,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the State of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Poquoson City Council,
as a member of the Poquoson City Council,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay. Just sign that for me.
Ready?
Okay. Okay, bud. I, and say your name,
I, Charles M. Southall III,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the State of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and
discharge
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Poquoson City Council,
as a member of the Poquoson City Council,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you. Sign that one. Thank you so much.
Well, I'll give them a round of applause. Congratulations. Is that your pen? Thanks. Congratulations.
It was a tough campaign.
Okay, now that we have a sitting council. All right, the second thing on the presentations tonight is an update on Hampton University Proton Therapy Institute. I understand that he's running late this evening, and so when Mr. Bill Thomas does arrive, we will come back to that item, as long as council is good with that. And then, so item 3 on the agenda is an audit presentation. If we could proceed with that.
Good evening, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of City Council. My name is Krista Edoff. I'm a partner with Cherry Becker, and I'm pleased to be here with you tonight to present the results of the June 30, 2014 audit of the financial statements. We were engaged to audit the financial statements of the city and school board, as well as the compliance with federal major programs and your Virginia state laws, regulations, and intergovernmental agreements. In conducting our audit, we are required to assess internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, but we do not issue a separate opinion specifically related to internal controls like you would see in the public sector with the SOX 404 audits. So those are not required of governments currently. So I am pleased to report that on all 3 levels of the financial statements, major programs, and state laws and regulations, we do have an unmodified opinion on those audit reports. That is a clean opinion. It's the best type of opinion you could have hoped for with the audit results. In conducting our audit, we are required to assess internal controls. And if any matters or deficiencies came to our attention, we would be required to report those to you. There are none of those matters. Also, with our testing of federal major programs and with the state laws and regulations, if any matters of non-compliance were to come up, we'd also be required to report those to you. And again, we did not have any of those matters in our audit. So it was a great audit, the best result you could have hoped for in audit that you had again this year. So with that, that is the presentation of the audit. There are several other matters I am required to tell you as a result of the audit. The financial statements are comparable to last year. There were no additional accounting principles which were adopted by the city or school board. There were also no significant changes in the existing accounting principles, so they are comparable with prior year. Built into the financial statements are some certain significant estimates, and some of those estimates would be your allowance for doubtful accounts on property taxes, depreciation expense and the useful life of assets, any pension and OPEB-related liabilities, as those are based on an actuarial calculation. So just understand within the financials there are certain estimates. They're not hard and fast numbers, and they are potentially subject to change from actual based on the assumptions that are built into those particular amounts. With that, we did not pose any audit adjustments this year. We did not have any disagreements with management. We are independent with relation to city and school board, which means there's no relationships that would cause us to issue a biased, audit opinion. We would thoroughly like to thank Teresa with the city and Bill Bowen with schools and their respective staff for their assistance during the audit. With that, it concludes my presentation, and I will take any questions that you might have.
Questions of council? I don't think we're going to question anything that comes back with no findings. Unless somebody wants to find one. But no, let me tell you, I've received this report from audit agencies, I guess now almost 20 years. But what it does do for us and what it does really do for the citizens is it lets them know that staff is handling their money wisely in accordance with the law, and that I say this just about every year, that we can believe in the numbers. And there are, believe it or not, there are places out there where that is not the case with federal funds, with tax dollars. So very important to us, very important the service that you provide to us. Thank you for doing that, because I know that audit is a long, arduous process. I saw y'all pouring through books up there, and appreciate everything that you did and your firm did.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for presenting that. I guess the school board gonna get that same report from you during one of their meetings?
If they choose.
Okay, very good. Okay, we'll leave that up to them, but I appreciate it. And thank you for coming
Thank you.
this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Mr. Bill Thomas has joined us. Please come on up. We got going a little early, and we're looking for an update this evening from you on Hampton University's Proton Therapy Institute, and as well we have signatured a letter out to on your behalf. So we'll be happy to give you your copy of that.
Very good. I really would appreciate that, but I am challenged with technology, so I think I see what I need to see, though, and we will give it a try. And while I'm doing this, I believe, I had a little excitement today. My daughter is applying for medical school today, and she went to do her interview, and she went to pick up her dress at the cleaners, and it wasn't ready. Panicked. And she just was going crazy, and I just said, wait a minute. We have an account at Nordstrom's. They have Nordstrom's personal people. Call them, tell them to bring you a dress and some shoes. I will pay for it. Go to your interview. And she said the best part of the interview was her dress and shoes. So, so now when I see this click, if you hear a ring, that means my American Express is going off. So we will deal with that at another day.
Family
But I appreciate
emergencies.
it. I want to thank you and the mayor and the city citizens and city council, Poquoson, and former mayor Gordon Hassell for being supportive of Hampton University Proton Therapy Institute. And I just heard you talk about accountability and responsibility. And I'm here to tell you that Poquoson and the citizens have been heavily using the Proton Therapy Institute, and you're on our chart. And basically what proton therapy does is if you had, your mom died of cancer, which my mom did, and my dad passed away with prostate cancer, and my mom was a nurse, and the traditional radiation was so horrible to her that she come and told me that when you leave for the hospital today, take me with you because I just don't want to go through this again. But we're really, really proud of accountability, and we can tell your citizens for your support and for Delegate Hassell for his support that we're actually doing this. We are easing human suffering and saving lives, and Poquoson is right up there on the top of that happening. And what I'm also proud about is where we're doing these kinds of things. You can see it in Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and we have a host of cancer patients from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East coming over as well, which helps our bottom line, but we want to get more Virginians. And then lastly, this is what we do in terms of the prostate and other forms of cancer that we're taking care of. We just completed a memorandum of understanding with King's Daughters Hospital. And for pediatric cancer, it's just saved so many lives of young individuals. In fact, a lot of schools and medical centers are copying us. Out of the top 10 cancer centers in America, 8 have now trying to put proton therapy in there, including St. Jude's and all the other hospitals that you can think of in the world. So we actually, through Dr. Harvey's innovative, visionary, hard-working efforts made this happen. And I'll never forget, I'm an economist and I work for a Citicorp Bank and our Federal Reserve System. And when Dr. Harvey said, Mr. Thomas, we got to go out here and raise $225 million in 2007 and 8 when the economy was flattened and stuff, I said, Dr. Harvey, cancer isn't going to kill me. What's going to kill me is trying to get this money raised. But through his vision, we were able to get that done. So let me see if I can flip back to the little short piece I'd like for you folks to see, just to give you an idea of who we're helping and how we make that work. And I may need some help with this to get the, I'm not proud to ask when I need help, but I'm trying to get to the video. If you could help me, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe it is right there.
Is that it? Correct. Just click it on. I'm ready. I'll take it all the way. Thank you, sir. The wind is blowing, so the internet activity is a little slow, I'm assuming.
Guess the wind is blowing.
Yes,
In a circle, looks like.
and it's still circling.
No, we don't.
I'll be patient a minute and see what happens. Is there anything I can do with it, just going to keep circling, or? In the meantime, what I would tell you, what we have done is we have really created a partnership with the Hampton Veterans Administration in terms of hospital center in trying to help ease their loads for cancer patients. We had been approached by at least 8 veterans who had tried to get appointments to get their cancer appointments, not the treatment, just their appointments, and they weren't able to do that. As reported in the Daily Press, 2 veterans, including veterans from Vietnam with Agent Orange and all the other things that goes along with that, actually passed away before they got the treatment taken care of. So we're working with the Veterans Administration, the Office of the Governor, and with Senator Warner and Senator Kane to make sure that that doesn't happen to our veterans. It's just an awful shame that that's happened. One of the other clips in here, if this doesn't go, I'll make sure you get a copy of it, is a clip from Joanne Davis, Congresswoman Joanne Davis, who passed away with cancer. And her husband is just a very big advocate for proton therapy cancer, because when she was given all the options that she could have, they didn't tell her about proton therapy. And one of the things that it does, if cancer hasn't progressed to a certain level, proton therapy actually kills the cancer cells, not delay it or anything else. It kills the cell. It totally destroys it. It's not for everybody, and you may have progressed to a point where it's not going to be as useful for you. But at the point that you understand from my own personal experience and from Tom Davis and the loss of his wife for that, it's just a really a miracle that we have here in our Commonwealth that's doing the kinds of things that we need to do. Over the years, we have received probably about $25 million from the federal government in cancer research. We're trying to get the Commonwealth of Virginia to also, that's why we need the letter, to support us on this. And basically, another big key to this, and I mentioned my daughter, she is out in California now going to UCLA Pepperdine medical physics program because she was going to go to medical school. But a medical physicist, which is what we hire out here, they average with just a master's about $70,000 to $80,000 a year. If you get your PhD, it's $169,000 a year. Now remember, there's only 12 of these proton therapy institutes in our country right now. In 10 years, there's going to be 75 or 100. And globally, there's going to be a larger amount. So what we're trying to do, we created the first medical physicist program in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It takes physics. She left UVA, came to Hampton, got her physics degree, and we prayed many days on her passing those tests, but she got through them. But it's just another workforce development opportunity that's going to create opportunities. And lastly, with NASA Langley, if NASA is going to go to Mars or go outside the Earth's atmosphere, 90% or 95% actually of the atmosphere is proton. To be able to do the research on that, they're going to have a cyclotron, which we have, cost $70 million, to be able to study the impact of protons on communications, on health, on the shelter of the spacecraft, and everything is going to have to be tested. Right now, there's only 2 institutions that have the capability of doing that. That's Loma Linda in California and the University of Indiana and Harvard, Mass. They have one as well. But we have one of these facilities right here in our backyard, which is also going to expand the opportunities for our sons and daughters to go get the appropriate biomedical training from universities to go forward. We used to think that chemistry and biology were the sciences of the future. The sciences of the future is physics. That's what it's all about. If you understand physics, you can literally, we're developing an application through pencil therapy that one day is going to be able to not automatically, I'm not a scientist, but it's going to be able to use this technology to heal wounds, to cure diseases. And we just feel so proud that this is here. We're kind of low on the cycle of making sure that everybody understands what we're doing, but at this point, we think it's something that Dr. Harvey came up with, but when we first came here, one of our first stops was the city of Poquoson. And I remember Gordon, with the mayor, Hassell, came and supported it just 100%, as he did last year, by even carrying bills for us. So I wanted to thank you. I think accountability is important. We'll get everybody a clip of this. If I get everybody's name, I'll make sure you get a clip of this. But we are so thankful that you were able to do this. Lastly, I will say this. A lot of times people get into this thing of race matters and this and that and the other. It really doesn't. What matters is that we have open communications, that we talk and communicate with each other. The difference between what we do and what we have and what we don't have, and the differences between and among the races is pretty much communications. But I've always applauded Poquoson. I've always had a big, big heart for what you guys have done, because what? You communicated with Hampton University. You always did. Actually, you communicated better with us than the city of Hampton. And I remember some time ago, when we were thinking about putting a center that was going to be in competition with the National Institute of Aerospace, because we thought they were wrong. We thought they should have gone for green and done studies of the atmosphere and stuff, because we realized that President Bush and that administration was not going to go with heavy lift things that they wanted to do in aerospace. We thought that was dead. We had lost our edge there. We ended up being right, but one of the places that offered us a home to build that particular center was the city of Poquoson. So again, I want to thank all you folks and your leadership and all the things that you do and all the good things you do. And to remember that, again, the things that divide us is truly just ignorance and communications. But from the Hampton family to your family, we've always had that, and I think that's what makes the difference. So we'll make sure everybody gets a copy of this and see that, and I think it's a good thing to see. But I just wanted to take my hat off to thank you for Dr. Harvey, who's president of our institution, and our faculty, administrators, and staff, and students, to say you are our partner, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you. Well, Bill, thank you for coming tonight and attempting to use our outdated technology on getting it. We'll get that up and we will get that shown. As you said, I remember in 2008 when you came here, and we all thought it was going to be an impossible undertaking to get to $200 and some odd million. You have done that. Hampton University has been a great leader and a great partner, and it was a pleasure writing this letter on your behalf to Senator Norman, to Delegate Chris Jones, and this is just your copy of it, so you know that we sent it. You don't even, I know it doesn't have a stamp on it. You don't have to mail it to yourself.
Thank you, sir. Thank all of you for your help and support.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And congratulations to your daughter as well.
Oh,
Very good. And appreciate the new dress. You know?
She has her dress, loses her dress before the next interview.
Yeah.
We'll still be happy if you want to come build something here in town.
Yeah,
You're
we
still
will.
welcome.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is an audience for visitors, and now is the time to hear from anybody that would like to address City Council on any issue. Now, I notice there's a couple people here.
Public hearing.
There's a public hearing on the sign ordinance. You'll get a chance to talk at that time. So with that being said, anybody would like to address council on any other issue? Okay, if not, then we'll close the audience for visitors and ask council for approval of the minutes.
Mayor, move that we approve the minutes of our regular meeting of November 10th, 2014.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that we approve those minutes. Any questions or comments? Not, Judy, please.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
And the work session?
Mr. Mayor, move that we approve the minutes of the work session of November 10th, 2014.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we adopt those also. Judy, please.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, now we're at the Section H of the agenda, which is public hearings. The first public hearing that we're going to have tonight is an ordinance amending the sign ordinance to allow the use of electronic signs by city government and schools, as well as static electronic signs for display of prices at fueling stations. We've had a couple work sessions that were televised regarding this. But Randy, I think it's important enough that if we could get a brief presentation
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor.
for those that may not have heard at the previous things, that we inform them of what we're talking about this evening.
Kevin, if you come forward, Mr. Mayor, Kevin will be presenting the staff reports on all three of our public hearing items. So get used to standing up there, Kevin. And thank you. Councilman, as you said, Mayor, each one of these three items has been the subject of council discussion and all three of recent work session prior to initiating the Planning Commission. They've all been through the Planning Commission. The first of the three pertains to electronic signs. That was a 4-2 vote, which I'm sure Kevin will discuss a little bit more. The other two came to you on a 6-0 vote from the Planning Commission following their public hearing.
Okay.
Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler and Mayor, and honorable members of council. It's going to be a pleasure speaking with you this evening on multiple public hearing items we have. This first being an amendment to the sign ordinance that would allow for the use of electronic message signs for the city and school use only. Additionally, we would allow for fueling stations to display their prices on static electronic boards. But we first discussed this back in June. It came up at a council meeting. Staff was directed to look into it, and over the past few months we have. We've spoken with both you and the Planning Commission several times over the past couple months. And in October, specifically, we really worked on a draft ordinance at that time. This ordinance essentially defines electronic message signs and defines other terms that are associated with them, specifically dissolve, fade, nits, which is a level of illumination measurement, scroll, and static. These signs would, as we stated previously, would only be permitted for the use by the city and the city's school system. Furthermore, this language establishes certain conditions for these signs. Specifically, those conditions are the messages must remain static and must remain on the screen for at least 8 seconds. The transitions must be clean. The size of the signs will be limited to 48 square feet, which is an increase by 8 square feet of what's allowed generally, at least through the B2 district, which is the Wythe Creek Road corridor. The hours of illumination when near a residential district will be restricted. Those hours would be 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The signs must remain dark, and that's if they are within 250 feet of a residential district, which is important because most of the schools are within residential districts, so they would have to meet that dark period. The illuminated intensity would be allowed 1,400 nits during daylight hours and 250 nits during the evening. This is a drastic reduction of what you all saw in October. And this is off the recommendations and standards developed by the Illuminating Engineering Society of North America. They're kind of the industry leader on this. Originally, we went with what Newport News uses, and that's 10,000 nits during the daylight and 700 nits during the daylight hours. And just to put that in perspective, the sun during daylight hours is about 11,000 nits approximately. And we felt that allowing anything as bright as the sun would not be in the city's best interest, so we reduced that to the industry standards there.
Thank you for that.
We allow for height exceptions when in a flood zone. City staff can use their discretion in allowing the sign to be built at base flood. So that they would, most of the city is within a floodplain, so we would be able to use our discretion to get it out of the floodplain. This is a condition that came out of discussion at the Planning Commission. These signs must be perpetually maintained in good working order. If at any time they are malfunctioning, lights are out, they have to be dark until that is corrected. Like I mentioned, the the allowable illuminated intensity may be adjusted due to locational conditions. The lighting throughout the city can be sporadic, so depending on the light conditions, if there are lights in the area, obviously the sign should be allowed the option to be a little brighter than in a dark area at night. And that's another condition that came from discussion at the Planning Commission level. And lastly, as I stated previously, electronic displays for fueling stations to display fuel prices will be permitted. That's the only element of this ordinance that would allow businesses to utilize electronic signs. And you've seen some of these pictures before. Hampton Roads Academy, of course, has a sign that we looked very closely at when developing this language. Here's another one without color. There's our fueling. This is a very kind of minor housekeeping item, but Section 4, prohibitive signs, right now states that any sign that displays lights of changing intensity is prohibited. A small sentence was added to this section to exclude these types of signs. The new language, I discussed that as I was going through the conditions set forth for these signs, but perpetual maintenance. The zoning administrator does have discretion for the illumination intensity based upon the location. Randy is our zoning administrator, so if someone is asking for an increase in that allowable intensity, it would fall into his lap. Allowable illuminated intensity, as I mentioned, that decreased dramatically from what we originally proposed in our October draft. And lastly, the allowable square footage. Initially, we allowed for 36 square feet in total, with the total signage to include what freestanding signage would be there, to go up to 48 square feet. We eliminated that caveat, and now they're allowed 48 square feet. We looked at the industry standards as came out of your work session in October and determined that these signs, they're highly customizable. There's no real size limit or no standard size, so 48 square feet, why couldn't they use that for their entire purpose? As Randy mentioned, the Planning Commission voted on this last week. They considered this item and by a vote of 4-2 are recommending its approval to you all. So I can answer any questions or take any comments you may have about this language.
Questions? City Council? I don't think there was anything new that we heard. Actually, there are some very good suggestions that came out of the Planning Commission, and I appreciate those. So, any other questions of council?
Is it the two that voted no, what was their main opposition?
One of the commissioners, Commissioner Bill Travis, voiced his opposition in the fact that he does not like where this may lead to in the future. He's not a big fan of electronic message signs, stated Mercury Boulevard in Hampton as being very cluttered with signs, and believes this may be the gateway to eventually getting there. Commissioner Greg Gardy stated his opposition more from a fiscal standpoint. Where's this money going to come from? We're allowing these, and we don't have a plan for how we're going to get that money to ultimately install one.
Two good points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, this doesn't constitute a plan for us to buy signs, right? This just sets the criteria to have one.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Great. Okay, any other questions?
Okay.
Have we got comment? I mean, we talking about,
have
we getting ready to
public-
vote on it?
No, we have a public hearing.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay. Do you have any questions before
I
the
did
public
have a
hearing? Go
question
ahead.
on number 7, under section, is it 3? I'm not sure what it is. The added stuff, where it says, in the event that the electronic message sign is placed within a flood zone, height restrictions may be relaxed to allow for the sign to be erected at the base flood elevation. I believe a better word would be above the base flood elevation. Because, I mean, a foot above base flood might be, that would just be smarter than at base flood.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. If not, I'd like to hold the public hearing, and we'll open the public hearing to hear anybody that would like to talk about this ordinance. And, yes, ma'am. And if you could, as you come up, just let us know your name and where you live. Okay, thanks.
My name is Jennifer Mosteller. I live at 5 Freeman Drive, and I'm currently the PTO president at the Poquoson Middle School. First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to council and also for reconsidering the use of electronic signs in the city of Poquoson. For the last 2 years, the PTO has worked with the school to raise funds for technological advances. We recognized 2 areas that we could use these funds for good use. One was the school needed a permanent computer lab. Currently, they have a rolling laptop cart, and the laptop batteries are going dead, so the PTO will raise funds to purchase furniture for the new lab, as well as pay for any kind of electrical needs to get that lab up and running. The other area was to replace or update the current marquee. The old marquee is in poor shape, to say the least. It is rotting and it has to be replaced. And the PTO board voted overwhelmingly to be able to update to an electronic sign to be able to provide more information about events at Poquoson City Schools to update the community. During our discussions, many things, including public safety, were discussed. The new marquee is going to be in the exact same place and approximately the same size. If I can approach, I would like to show you a picture of what the vendor sent, what would be, what the marquee may look like. Now,
Start it down one end and we'll pass it down. Thanks.
having seen the new regulations, if that doesn't meet that, we will gladly work with the other vendors to make sure that we are in regulation with the city. We feel that the new marquee would not impact public safety, or at least not the same way as the old marquee. It's kind of in a straightaway, and it would be above flood level, so I don't see any issues that would actually happen with that. The other thing that I don't even know if it's even been considered is that the use of the sign could help the city post events, city events, or even in case of an emergency. The information can be changed quickly, and even depending on the type of marquee purchased, could be done from a remote location. Some may say that it's unfair that it be approved just for the city and the schools, and most of the time I would agree with that. However, I feel the need to keep the citizens aware of important information outweighs that argument. By approving this ordinance, it puts in place a system that will be ready to use in case of an emergency. I believe that it would be better to have the system in place and not need it than need it and not have it. So I appreciate your time today, and thank you, and hope that you will pass the ordinance. And I apologize for being a little bit nervous.
Oh, no,
but
no.
Thank you.
And hey, thank you for coming, and thank you for the service that you do for the PTO.
Thank you again.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any other speakers, I'll close the public hearing and ask for consideration by council.
Mayor, being, I think, the only one that was adamantly opposed to electronic signs, I'm still not really gung-ho about them. But something that bothers me more is setting aside allowance for the city and schools to use them and service stations and not any other commercial use. So my recommendation is I would like to move that we postpone this till our next meeting and give it consideration. If we're going to do this, I think it's only fair that we open it up to all businesses with the restrictions that we have. The biggest objection I have to these signs are the ones that you see flashing and scrolling and things jumping out at you along thoroughfares that I think are really distracting and to the traveling public. And I think with the restrictions we've got, we might as well, if we want to move in this direction, I think we might as well, I think it's only fair to open it up to everybody and not say that government is so smart that we're going to use it. I just don't like that idea at all.
I would second that motion if you made it.
Well, let me just try and make sure that we're all grounded on one or two things. There are a few things that government does today that the normal citizen cannot do. One of those is cell towers. That's probably the biggest. And so what I would, I think that the thought process of this is very much like that the use of electronic media, whether we like it or we don't personally like it, and there are many, and I agree with you about Mercury Boulevard. You would not be seeing me vote positively for anything that's going to open up With Creek Road to become a Mercury Boulevard. You will see me support the one thing that government is responsible to do, and that is communicate. And this sign, these things do communicate, and they would be, I think, a benefit to both the schools and the city, especially in emergency situations. And I will tell you that, like, if we witness what goes on the sign that goes in front of City Hall, that's very labor intensive and only tells you about a third of what you really need to know when we try to communicate. So I see it as, and I understand your presence, and I think we all talked about that, and I understand that I don't want With Creek Road to go in this direction. I also realize that you sort of have to stay within the realm of technology that is here. And I don't want With Creek Road to take advantage of this. I don't want Victory Boulevard to take advantage of this. But I do see some very good communicative signs out there that I think have a place to communicate vital information to our citizens without being a nuisance. So that's my thought process on this subject. All right. So,
And I agree with the communication part of it, but I don't agree with your analysis about the cell towers. Cell towers are intrusive to a whole lot of people, and they're big. You can't hide them very well. This sign is made to be seen. And you're talking about the city putting one on the main thoroughfare, Victory Boulevard.
yeah.
And you're talking about schools putting them on the main thoroughfares, Poquoson Avenue and Odd Road. So, you know,
Well,
I just don't see separating government in this instance.
I was just
is the
addressing
right thing to do.
I was just addressing your point of there are certain things that I believe governments do on a recurring basis, and I will tell you, cell towers are not the only thing that we do.
Well, there are things that are inherently government, I agree with you there, but I don't think signs are one of them.
Okay.
That's just where we would disagree.
Well, let me,
And I mean,
hold on, wait, Bud.
Yeah, I like to weigh in on that, and my comments are a mixture of what the three of you have said, okay? When we had the work sessions, as I remember it, none of us were in favor of turning With Creek Road into a Mercury Boulevard. And this document lays out exactly what we asked for, okay? You did an excellent job, city staff, okay? You gave us exactly what we asked for, okay? But I think since I saw it in writing, my thought process has changed, and I share Carrie's thought. Having an electronic sign is not necessarily an inherently government function, okay? But, okay, if you take these things, and I started, I've got a whole page of modifications. If you take the limitations that are here and a few modifications, I think it would quickly allow for commercial and city use of electronic signs. In the city and school cases, you allow non-static signs. You allow the messages to change because we do have to communicate to the public, and we have to get various messages across. Schools don't let out early today. A lot of kids don't tell their parents that, okay? Those kind of things can be communicated. If there's a storm warning, we're worried about tides, and we're gonna open up places as storm shelters, that can be quickly put out there with a keyboard, okay? And so there are inherently government purposes for this, okay, to allow non-static signs, and these address the non-static signs, okay? But we, and when we were judging the parade the other night, I looked across the street and I saw some signs up there that were not electronic signs. They were backlit with fluorescent lights, and half the fluorescent lights were out, okay? If it were an LED sign, okay, it'd probably be all on or all off, okay? And you'd have nice, neat letters, and it wouldn't be part on or part off. And if the commercial business were allowed to use electronic signs with the same limitations that we have here, except that they'd be static signs. They're not allowed to flash, and we take out the part where we allow the city to have them change as long as they're at least 8 seconds in length. Just tell commercial businesses can change. It can name your business, it can do this, it can do that. But then in the case of a shopping center, if one business closes and another one opens up, they can simply type in the name of a new business, okay, and not have to change the whole sign, and it may use less energy. And so I think a quick work on this could allow commercial and government use of it. And I think the bulk of it's here. It's a matter of modifying what you're going to allow commercial business to use, what you're going to let the government do.
Well, as I recall from our work session, and then I'll let the next speaker go, what we said was we needed some run time before we even considered.
We did say that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I would think that the first step is to get some run time. Well, I'm not sure that wouldn't even further divide us if you propose that tonight.
I wouldn't be opposed to passing the ordinance and establishing a date by which we go back and put the criteria for commercial uses and make those changes.
Tracy, you got anything?
I agree with that. I wanted to mention that just yesterday, we had an incident where some buses couldn't get to certain streets because of flooding, and that would have been a perfect example of when the government could have used that. I think it's important that we allow this and not delay the vote again. We've been working on this for months. There have been numerous work sessions and there are public hearings on with the Planning Commission, and I think we all have opinions, and to delay this vote is simply delaying. It's not really opening it up to any more information than we already have.
Gary, you spoke, and I'll come back to you if you would like. But Dr. Bernal.
A couple of things. First of all, I certainly know how valuable it would be to the schools to be able to put information out there in a timely manner. If the ordinance were to be passed as it currently is, there's no reason why it couldn't be modified, as Bud was saying, to include businesses at a later date after getting sort of the test run to see how they're received and if there's any issues that we may think we have covered but have not. And if we have them for the schools and allowing the schools, it doesn't mean everybody's going to have one, but it means that those that want to could do it, and certainly the one for the city. I know, having been involved with trying to get some things on that sign, that thing is booked up forever, and they still have to change it about every other day, I think, Dave. And so. And
Dave does that.
I know he does.
He does that very well.
Yes. I don't want to overwork the poor fellow there. But I think that would be a major asset to have it for the city.
Well, I'm all for the city and the schools. Personally, I'm against, I don't think anybody rides down to Poquoson and all of a sudden sees a sign that says there's a Cleaners or there's a Chinese restaurant. I think they pretty much know they're here, if they come here. That's just my opinion on it. And I'm all for the cities and the schools, but I'm against the Mercury Boulevard type look.
Okay. So now everybody's been heard at least once. Now, could we get a motion from anybody for?
We have a motion already.
You got a motion?
Do not.
No, you do not.
He said he.
There's not been a motion made either way.
Okay.
So-
Then I move that we adopt this ordinance with the change that allow for the sign to be erected above the base flood elevation that I mentioned earlier. So I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the sign ordinance by revising Section 1, definitions, Section 3, permitted signs, and Section 4, prohibited signs.
Second.
And can you put on, would you modify that to include that we have a work session within 6 months to consider changes to allow commercial uses?
Can I suggest, because nobody has any funding to put up a sign tomorrow, right? All we're doing tonight is applying guidelines.
They do.
Well, we hope that y'all do.
Answer the question of who would pay for it.
Yeah, all I want to know is within 6 months of operation is what I would suggest. okay?
Right.
In other words, we actually get some runtime on the sign, not 6
Right.
months of tonight. We may
Well,
not.
is that part of the
Revisit it.
motion, or is that just an instruction?
And
I think he
revisit in
said-
6 months.
In 6 months, you want to do it in 6 months?
Yes.
Regardless, okay.
Does she know how long it would take to install it, being that she's got the money?
It would basically just purchase it, and they would then come install it, we would use the brick base that's there now. So we wouldn't have to-
So hopefully.
So quickly.
Okay, so it's up to you. Do you want to modify your motion to include the review at 6 months?
If I don't modify my motion and I get a second as is, can we then instruct the staff, city staff to do it anyway without having it be
We
part of
can
the
do
motion?
that, but if it makes some members, if it makes some members happy, I'd put it in there.
Or if you're seconding me, then I will modify it to what you said.
I think we can do it either way.
Modification.
Then yes.
Okay, so you were modifying the motion to approve the ordinance with a public not a public hearing, a work session to be scheduled within 6 months of tonight to talk about,
Within 6 months of operation.
within 6 months of operation of the first sign, to talk about lessons learned and do we want to go other places?
Second.
All right, so that's the motion made and seconded. Okay, now discussion amongst council. Anybody? Okay, if not, Judy, please.
Councilwoman Crawford,
Aye.
Councilman Ayer,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
No.
Councilman Vernal,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-1.
Okay, thank you very much. And the second item, Kevin, you went and sat down. The second public hearing tonight is an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance to allow for establishment of a standalone residential structures and setbacks therein in the VC district.
Thank you, Mayor and honorable members of council. This is an item we discussed back in October as well. At that time, we didn't have draft language put together, but we did have a concept together that we wanted to discuss with you. And essentially, you may recall back in 2011, the residential concept was reintroduced to the Village Commercial District. And by that, I mean that we allow for, by right, residential on the second floor of a mixed-use structure, our commercial structure, and then on the second and third floors with a conditional use permit. One development's taken advantage of that now, and that's the Fountains of Poquoson development by Mr. Robert Moses. The intent of the Village Commercial reads as follows, and this kind of spearheaded the move to make it more of a village center, but the district is intended to encourage the establishment of a village center by permitting a variety of commercial, office, and residential uses in order to create a center of business and economic activity consistent with the locational advantage and prominence inherent in the big woods. So the purpose of this ordinance amendment, which is to establish the allowance of standalone residential, would be to fully comply with the intent established within the district. The current district regulations, as I just covered, allow for residential within a commercial structure or mixed-use structure on the second floor by right, and with a conditional use permit on the second and third floors, where that ratio would be 2/3 residential to 1/3 commercial. The proposed language would allow for standalone residential uses to include single-family, two-family, townhomes, and multifamily buildings to be separate from these mixed-use structures. We would allow it at a ratio of 50% by right, and then 2/3 with a conditional use permit, using the exact same ratios we have established now. With this, we would need established setbacks for these uses. And these are identical to what you're going to see in your next public hearing, which is amendments to the R3 district, but I'll go over them very briefly. You've seen most of these before. There's been one amendment, but the front yard with a front loading garage, 20 feet. The front yard with a rear loading garage, 10 feet. The rear yard with a rear loading garage, 20 feet. The rear yard with a front loading garage, 20 feet or 10 feet when it's adjacent to the same district, and this is something that came out of your work session. The side yard, 10 feet and a minimum building separation of 20. And the side yard with the side loading garage, 20 feet with a building separation of 40 feet. Multifamily buildings would have the exact same setbacks as commercial structures because they're similar in scale. With that being said, there's no required front or side yard setback in these districts. It would just have to maintain, I believe it's a 20-foot rear setback. New language, this came out of both work sessions with City Council and the Planning Commission, but you'll notice we're requiring that the area opposite of the drive or the area with the garage be maintained perpetually as green area. This is to minimize impervious cover and to improve the aesthetics of any development. Certain setbacks have been increased from 15 to 20. That would be the garage side. We noticed that in our site visits, particularly at Port Warwick, they have a 20-foot setback from the road there, and many cars struggled to fit in that space. With the standard parking space being a 9 by 18, we figured we'd go on the safer side of that at 20. So most cars, not all, but most cars could comfortably fit within that space. And the reduced rear setback when it's adjacent to the same district, previously that was proposed at 20 feet. When it's adjacent to a village commercial district, it can be 10 feet. The Planning Commission considered this item at their meeting last Monday, and they are recommending it to you for approval by a vote of 6-0. We've seen these pictures before. This is at Port Warwick, a condominium apartment building, very little setback there.
Next one.
Similar in scale to that building. And this picture, I think, was one that spearheaded the need for the perpetually maintained green area. There's a lot of concrete there, a lot of asphalt, not a lot of green space compared to, here's another one, not a lot of green space compared to Port Warwick, which you see a lot of green area. It's much more aesthetically pleasing. So with that being said, I can open it up to you all for questions and comments.
Does anybody have any questions on that particular presentation? Okay, go ahead.
How do these setbacks compare to places like Fort Worth? Are they similar?
Port Warwick, I believe that was, Newport News has several segmented zoning districts. So I'm not sure exactly what those setbacks are. I can tell you that most of the developments there are set back 10 feet in the front yard, and they all have rear loading garages. So it would be 10 feet in the back and 20 feet in the rear. So this is right in line with that.
I have one question. I don't have an, is it my turn? I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't have any problem with anything that you've presented to us, and I thank you for working so hard on this. I know you've been working on it for quite a while. My question is that what's to prevent, if we allow for 50% by right of make it standalone townhomes, what's to prevent a developer from coming in and using up half the space, building townhouses, and then not building the rest of the stuff? Do we have any safeguard from that happening?
There's no safeguard in this particular ordinance outside of site plan approval. However, in the PUD mixed-use overlay that we discussed about a year ago now, we've required that they at least do utilities to the commercial site. That's something we could certainly implement in this district. Staff would prefer a utility hookup as opposed to building pads, because pad sites could certainly lead to blight. That's just as bad as having it undeveloped. But that's something that we should certainly consider prior to
Because
approval.
I feel like if we pass this, we're permitting somebody to come in and build townhouses without the businesses, and that is dangerous. I can't vote for that. Okay. So if we could change that, I'd be in favor of it, but I don't know what the safeguard is.
Okay. You have a few minutes to evaluate where you may want to insert that. If you got another question concerning this one.
Could it be like whatever developer does has to be 50%, if it's going to be individual townhomes, 50% townhomes and 50% commercial locations with the permit process?
That's something we could certainly implement. And while we're on this subject, I think it's important, in a lot of our discussions with developers in general, they have stated the need in order to justify commercial space, more rooftops. And that's something that has certainly spearheaded this
Which makes
development.
sense, but it also allows them to vanish after they've built townhouses. And I just.
Agree.
you-
I think that's a very good point. All right, if, with council's permission, while he's standing there, I was going to go ahead, because it seems related, I'll go ahead and let you do the presentation on the next ordinance, and then I'll hold both public hearings.
Okay, absolutely.
Any other questions on that one? I don't mean to rush us through. Oh, yeah, I do mean to rush us through, but
Rush this through.
I mean to keep us on schedule. Right.
Thank you, sir. These are amendments to the R3 district, primarily related to duplexes and townhomes. A big part of this ordinance is setbacks, and those are the exact same setbacks we just discussed. So I'm not going to waste your time going over those, because they're identical to what we just discussed. However, we've noticed an issue with the R3 district, which is our multifamily district. It's in various locations of the city, but the highest concentration. The Villas is a R3 development. The Town Villas South and the townhomes on With Creek Road are zoned R3 multifamily. We presented this concept to you in October with the other concept that we proposed. It was well received, so we moved forward with developing this draft. Presently, the setbacks for townhomes and duplexes is excessively restrictive, and it's identical to the single-family districts we have in the city, primarily the R1 and R2 district. The setbacks are the same. With that being said, townhomes and duplexes cannot be constructed in a manner that makes it feasible to for them to hit the maximum allowable density yield within the district per acre, and that's 12 units. Within our single-family district, that's 1.5 units per acre. So obviously, you can see the disconnect there. So the solution for us was to reduce these setbacks, and there's a interesting language feature in our ordinance now that especially for townhomes, specifically for townhomes, it requires certain lot area requirements. And that lot area requirement is for the first 3 townhomes in a building, you have to set aside 25,000 square feet. After that, 2,000 additional square feet until you get to 10, at which you're not allowed to put any more buildings in that, or any more units in that building. So we felt that was incredibly restrictive, and this ordinance eliminates that lot area requirement in its entirety and allows that the allowable density yield regulate the layout of these units. As I mentioned, presently, the front setback in this district is 35 square feet, rear's 30, side is 15. Exactly the same as the R1 and R2 district, and I mentioned those densities and how they're different. The proposed setbacks, exactly the same as what we're proposing in the Village Commercial District. The same items that we spoke about that came out of the work sessions have been implemented into these setback requirements. The green area requirement opposite of the drive area, perpetually maintained, is in this language. Additionally, a reduced rear setback when it's adjacent to the same district. So 20 feet under normal circumstances, when it's adjacent to R3 property, that can be reduced to 10 feet. The Planning Commission, like on the last ordinance, recommended this by a vote of 6-0 to you all for your approval. All right, and that wraps that up.
Questions on that particular presentation? Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, thank you.
All right. Next order of business is to hold a public hearing, and I'm going to ask for comments, if I'm not out of order, on both of these ordinances. Open the public hearing in parallel. Can I do that, Wayne, or do I need to do it one? All right, so I'm going to open the public hearing both on the ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance for establish of a standalone residential structures and setbacks therein in the VC district, as well as the zoning ordinance to allow a reduction in setback requirements in the RE district. R3 district. Okay, it's misspelled here. All right. So I'll open the public hearing at this time. Anybody like to discuss or give their thoughts to council? Okay, seeing none, I'll close that public hearing and then ask for consideration by council.
Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by revising Article 11, Village Commercial District, and add some language to it that would require the developer to at least complete all utilities for the commercial part of the development.
Okay. Is there a second?
No, second.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Is there any way to include in that in the permitting process that at least 50% of any residential construction be 50% commercial?
Well, let me ask for some guidance from Randy, from your staff, or from you. Right now in our PUD district, what is the wording there? It allows you to. It's not 50%, but it allows you to build up to a certain rate. So why don't we copy that language that we've already approved into this? That would be my suggestion, because we already have that language that requires a certain percentage of residential before you, a certain percentage of commercial has to be in place.
Before the resident, I'd need to see it, because I don't know that I think
Yes,
this
go
is a hornet's nest.
Debbie, Kevin, correct me, or come up and make the presentation yourself, but my recollection of the PUD ordinance in its final form was there is no phasing, meaning that,
Others didn't like it.
so there is no fixed percentage before you have to do something else. You need to develop and make ready the commercial areas. You don't have to construct any of it as an internal trigger.
Well, isn't that the same thing as what the
Utilities,
motion
yes.
on the floor is?
It is what Ms. Green said. It didn't necessarily track with the comments of other council members.
Okay, so it tracks with what we've currently got approved. Okay.
Which is a hornet's nest, and it is opening a bunch of housing without any commercial. And the purpose of this entire district is supposed to be mixed use. And I see the danger of getting not mixed use, but residential separate from commercial. And that's not what I think we want to do. I don't think it's the purpose of the entire ordinance.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. Any other discussion?
Well, I wouldn't think the developer would purposely gear the price of his residential stuff to survive. I mean, the commercial part is what he's counting on to make the whole thing viable.
It's not our job to guess what a developer's going to do. It's our job to protect the public and protect what we want in this district in Poquoson. And if we pass this, we are opening up a hornet's nest and allowing developers to build multifamily dwellings.
Well,
Period. That is what we are allowing.
Here's my, and I hear you, and I understand your point. What I will tell you is that the very same argument came out when the VC district was come up with, that it was going to allow these things to develop without a commercial component. Where's that first village commercial development? Do we have one? We have zero. We have one proposed development, and we've never built anything, and this ordinance has been on the books for, 20 years?
Do we instead want to build multi-level housing? Because that's what we need to approve.
But that's
what you're approving.
That's what's allowed in there today, is multi-level housing with business on the bottom.
No, right now it's
Hold on
amounts
now.
multi-use.
Village commercial was always, the only change here is that you're allowed to separate the structures. What the village commercial district did, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but it basically designed a neighborhood that mimicked Hilton Village. It was basically commercial on the bottom, residential on the top, and I think it was allowed, I think it was one floor or something like that. I can't remember the specifics, but it was a model that didn't catch fire. And we've seen it repeated in both at Hampton City Center and Town Center in Newport News, or vice versa, whichever one of those is. Neither one of those is doing extremely well. So what this was to basically disconnect that component and make it more like the development of the Nolan property across from the airport, where you have you have buildings that are designed as apartment dwellings, and you have a commercial component in the front.
And the
And what
commercial
you're,
stuff
and what
went
you're
in.
concerned about now is that below, since we have not been able to ever get one of these, you're concerned that they would build the apartment complex and not the front. The counter argument to that would be they can't build anything else. They've bought the property. So I think what you're saying is that it wouldn't work because you're going to have to roll the cost of the extra property into the price of the
Right,
house.
essentially what they're
if you don't
doing-
bring it along.
They're creating their own market
Right,
for the businesses.
right.
If they just build the businesses with no rooftops, there's nobody there that's going to use it.
So what if we kind of came to the middle of this thing and just said, we don't know yet, but we start with a percentage that seems to work. Like, you can build 75% of your residential units up until you have your first business on the ground. What if we start there, and then if we needed to amend it at a later date, then we do that? Just something for consideration.
I think 50% would be fine. Anytime I've ever seen a planned development where there's businesses and residents, the businesses go in first. They don't build just the houses and then build in the businesses. I see the stores going in first, or at the same time. And
That would be
and
ideal, but
the shopping center the grocery store has to be there.
in our end-of-the-road location, we're not necessarily,
Which means that maybe there won't be businesses, but if there's not businesses, do we want the residents? And that's not what we're zoning for.
Yeah.
I do.
Well,
I think,
that's not what village commercial is supposed to be.
and all I'm saying is there a motion that kind of satisfies everybody here? Otherwise, I would suggest that we table this one and move to the next one and come back to this at a later date.
I'd make a motion to table this one.
Okay.
Discuss it
They gotta
further.
withdraw their
Wait,
motion.
we've got a motion.
Got a motion made and seconded.
made
Okay.
that we approve this and add language that at least the infrastructure will have to be built to support the commercial part of it.
Okay. All right. All right, so without a change of motion or motion table, then we'll proceed to any other comments. I don't want to rush. All right, Judy, please.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Bernal?
Aye.
Councilman Air?
No.
Councilman Southall?
No.
Councilwoman Crawford?
No.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
No.
And Mayor Hunt?
Aye.
All
right, so that
Mr.
failed.
Mayor, the motion failed for
One
lack
vote.
of a majority vote.
Okay, so we'll move to the next item, because there's no coming back to that. All right, so the next item is the ordinance amending the zoning ordinance to allow reduction in required setbacks. Is there a motion on this one?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by revising Article 8, R3 District Regulations.
Second.
A motion made and seconded, we approve this one. Questions or comments? Okay. If not, Judy, please.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Bernal?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Air?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, on this vote that did not pass, do you want to have a formal motion to postpone the consideration of that? There is no motion on the floor at present.
I
has
would,
been voted down, so I didn't
been
know whether you
voted
wanted to
down, so
consider.
what I
a-
would tell council is that you will not see this item again unless you postpone it.
Postpone.
May I make a motion to postpone it?
Second.
I only say that because you've had the cost of a public hearing.
That's
and
correct.
You brought it forward.
Right. And you would not have
I
anything.
would like to see it back, okay, with the right language so that we can proceed with the, with that zoning
Yes.
district, okay?
Okay.
But protected.
All right. All right, so we have a motion made and
postpone.
seconded?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right,
Can I ask a question on what we just did? Voted it down,
you voted it down.
and so it's dead. So now we're saying, let's bring it back up and look at it again.
No, they're saying basically that you want to postpone it for additional
We're
revision.
discussing it
So
still.
postpone a killed motion.
You're making a motion to postpone this to a future event. You can do that. You just had a vote that said
You don't like it in
you
its
don't like the
current form.
motion that was made, but that doesn't mean it goes away.
But if we don't take an
But you shouldn't
action
just
here-
leave it in limbo because you had a public hearing, so there should be something done with it.
If you want to consider
Okay, I
this in the
thought
future,
okay, I just thought it was defeated.
Well, the motion was defeated.
Motion, but we got another motion on it.
But we can, okay, good.
You can still postpone it.
I just want to make sure I followed that.
Resurrecting the dead.
It was a change to an existing ordinance, so otherwise the existing ordinance would be there.
Yeah.
Which probably doesn't do what we want it to do anyway.
yeah, I don't think it's worked out. Okay, so we have a motion to postpone the item on, flip my page back, establishment of standalone residential structures and setbacks there and in the VC district. Okay, Judy, please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, that was a fun set of public hearings this evening. And that's okay. All right, new business. First is an ordinance making amendments to the newly adopted flood ordinance. Randy, how would y'all like to proceed on this? What is the presentation?
Mr. Mayor, presentation if you require it. These are non-substantive amendments. They're a combination of Scribner's errors and other non-significant issues that were raised by FEMA. There are no substantive changes to the ordinance. Ken is here and can walk us through every single one of them if you would like. But
Would it make a difference to council? If not, then I would entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to, I lost it, to pass, sorry. To pass an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Poquoson, Virginia by making revisions to Chapter 42 entitled Floods.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve that and save the time on language errors. All right. Questions or comments? Judy, please.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, next item under new business is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with ADP for payroll services.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to invite, with your consent, Mrs. Owens Ford to present the item. She did a great deal of work, but I will say, before she starts, that as we fleshed out this idea and determined whether or not we thought it might be a good idea for us, we did convene a group that included my office, finance, police, fire, and public works, because they all have different and then more complex payroll responsibilities between the 5 departments. And so it was a group effort to look at it before we decided to bring it forward to you.
Okay.
ADP did come to us with a proposal to prepare payroll and some other services that they do. They specialize in payroll all the way from actually preparing the payroll to benefits to human resources, recruiting, anything, time and attendance, leave. But we only wanted just a little bit of the payroll and the leave part of it. That we felt like that would help us the best at this point. There are compliance requirements with the Affordable Care Act that we're having to do. It's just more and more that is very technical, and they are the specialists in doing this. They're the experts at these things. So like Randy said, we did convene the departments and felt like that by doing this, the departments would be able to do the payroll quicker, less cumbersome, and they'd be able to work on things that they do. You know, police can do safety and not have to worry about administrating payroll. So it is going to cost us a little bit of money, but we think that it's well worth the time, the staff time to do it. And that's really about it.
So it's gonna, so basically what you're saying is it's gonna make the various departments encumbered less with payroll,
Yes.
so that they can focus on their base thing, making the quality of their job a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If I could give you one example.
Go right ahead.
In the police department, which is not a large department, even though it's one of our largest, it takes a command level officer 2 days a week to handle the responsibilities that are encompassed within the scope of this. That should be, we shall get at least 1 day per week of a command level officer back, and that's only in one place. So you can see quite quickly how the savings will really accrue in terms of resources returned.
Right.
You can't get a command level police officer what we're going to pay, particularly as you relate that then to fire and to the other, all of the departments.
All the departments,
But the bigger, more complicated payroll departments, more so, and our own office has a very important linchpin role, which in the second part of this, some of that responsibility will go into the system as well.
Okay.
So I believe we more than make up for it in increased capacity of your senior leaders.
Okay. Thank you.
Will this involve the schools as well?
No. No, ma'am.
It will involve the fire department, the police department?
All the city departments.
All the city departments. You know, I don't know if the school already does this or not, so that's, we can certainly pass that along to them for
I thought we
consideration.
had rolled that together. We had never rolled the school. Okay.
Teresa, I understand that the Affordable Care Act is affecting lots of business areas that make that much more complicated than it used to be. And with them being the experts in this area and handling the payroll and the leave portions of it for you, as personnel's paychecks get affected by this, okay, and they see a change and they don't know why, will ADP let you know why they're making the various changes? So if the employee has a question about what's happening, you'll be able to answer it without them having to go out to ADP for an answer?
Yes.
Just generally speaking, do you know roughly how many of the city employees actually get a paycheck versus electronic deposit? Do you have any idea on how that
I would
balances?
say probably, I think there's maybe 10 or 12 that get, besides y'all, that get an actual check, and there's probably about 140 checks.
So the vast majority is electronic.
And this isn't
deposit.
just checks, this is for direct deposit as well. It's for all.
Well, yeah, I know,
Okay.
but I was just wondering what the breakout was. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with ADP for payroll services.
Second.
A motion made and seconded that we approve this resolution and employ somebody to do our payroll. Sounds like good. Okay. Questions or comments, final? Okay, Judy, please.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Air.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, the next item under new business is an update on the conditional use permit of Mr. Dunlap. And I see Mr. Dunlap is here in the audience.
You skipped one.
What did I skip?
Number 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I did. I checked too early. So we'll come back to you in just 1 second. Resolution making an alternate appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Mr. Mayor, move that we adopt a resolution making an appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals as an alternate with the name of Bob L. Lippincott Jr. inserted. His term will expire December 31st, 2019.
Still seconded, right?
Still seconded.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve that. Judy, please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Councilman Air.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, now we're on to an update for a conditional use permit for Mr. Dunlop. And Randy, would you like to tell us what's going on, or Kevin?
Kevin hasn't stood up for a while, so Kevin is prepared to give us a brief, and as you said,
I see that-
Mr. Dunlap
I see
is
that
also
your
here.
mentor is
Councilmembers
here,
have a-
though, and that's
Have
good.
a question for him, I'm sure he would be glad to answer.
I have no text on this one, so you can
just tell us
relax.
what's going
But we do have some pictures, and I thank you again for having me up. You may recall, almost a year ago to the day, a conditional use permit was issued to Mr. Jesse Dunlap, the owner of 93 Firth Lane, for operation of his landscaping business on that property. Part of that, 12 conditions were set. One of those which had a deadline date in them. And that, I'll get to the pictures in a second, I'm sorry, but that language required that a fence fully enclosed on all sides be erected as a storage yard area for his equipment and materials. As of today, a fenced area has been erected. However, it's only about 75% enclosure. So he does not fully comply with that condition. And here are some pictures, and this is really over the past month. We've monitored the site. He has 2 dumpsters there. Another condition that we were sent Mr. Dunlap a courtesy reminder is that the dumpster has to be screened. He's limited to 1. You'll see 2 there. He does have an open building permit on site. So he's entitled to have that additional dumpster for building purposes. So disregard that additional dumpster, that's why it's there. But the other condition he had not yet complied with was screening of that dumpster. Here are some evergreens that have been planted on the site to an adjacent property. I believe Mr. Ayers' property is back there. That's what you're looking at from Mr. Dunlap's rear yard. Here's that partially, this was when the fence was at about 50% erected. Another shot of those evergreens that have been installed. This is coming from Mr. Ayers' property, looking into the rear yard of Mr. Dunlap, and you can see to your right there the dumpsters in the storage area. This is a picture from today. You can see the dumpsters have been screened. That gate, it's my understanding, has been fully installed. But you can see that opening there. It's about 75%, maybe a little bit more than that, fully unscreened. However, that does not fully comply with that condition. And within that condition, it states that he has to do that within a year. A year will be tomorrow. So this evening, we're asking you for your review of his compliance with the conditions. A few more angles of the fence. And that is all. I can answer any questions you have regarding this compliance update.
All right. Mr. Dunlap, can you come up here, please? I'll give you a chance to kind of tell us what's going on, but let me-
The fence is, there's one corner there. Like I was telling Kevin, I met him out on the site 2 or 3 of the times that he came out. Mr. Ayers really the only one that had an angle of the view. We've put up about 40 evergreen trees around the perimeter of the property, ranging from this high to, I think, some 12, 13 footers. The fence does block all my neighbors' views. It's fully, and I think Kevin would attest to this, that from all my neighbors' views, it's pretty screened. I'd have to put about a 25-foot wide fence on it, which would equate to the 25% that's not fenced in. Those gates would be open all the time anyways for us to ingress, egress pretty much every day. We go into that area, come out of that area. My home is an L shape. It pretty much wraps that corner. The evergreens that we planted, you know, I think if you're in Mr. Ayers' driveway, as I was doing everything, I made numerous walks to his driveway to make sure that I was covering views.
Well, let me make sure that I state this clearly. Councilman Ayer has recused himself of voting on this several times, and he's not your issue. Your issue is simply this. You are in a residential district, and we wanted you to be almost a showcase of how it's done right. I would tell you that me looking at these pictures, if this was my neighbor, I would be upset, okay? That it's taken this much time to get in place the requirements that we asked you to do to be servicing and to do your business. And I know your business requires this sort of stuff. But if you're going to do this, you have to respect your neighbors, because first and foremost, you're in a residential district. And you can be used as a model, or you can be used as a model of how not to do it. So what I'm going to request of council tonight is that we table this, we give you time to finish this, and can let you continue to operate. And if we see this again in January, what I would tell you is that we're not going to probably continue this relationship as far as a business relationship, okay? So that's basically a very stern warning coming from the mayor, that you're operating in a residential district with our consent to do it right. And we all had an agreement, and we want you to live up to that agreement, and we want you to be prosperous in what you do, okay, while you are a good neighbor as well, okay? That's our intent. So it's a win-win. And with that understanding, do you think you can get this all finished in January?
Yep.
Okay. Council, can I just get something to postpone until January?
Yeah, I'd also like to add, Mr. Mayor, that the number 2 condition that we had would pertain to your hours of operation, 8 to 6 on Saturday and no work on Sunday. It's come to my attention that there's been work going on Sunday, and that just is not acceptable. A lot of residential neighborhoods.
I don't, my guys aren't generally there, aren't much in the way of operational hours on a Sunday. I mean, if somebody comes to work on a Sunday, they're not working at that site. I don't really have DSD-related work going on that site other than during the week. Their house is under construction. I mean, I'm getting material delivered there for my house quite often still. I'm there working on my house 5 days a week to have it done.
Well, we don't want to micromanage you or your staff.
Right.
We
We
just want a good relationship in that community.
Right.
Okay, and that's why I said I think we're willing to say, okay, we'll give you 1 more month, but be cautious that that's a pretty stern warning. And I think before tonight we were probably just going to revoke this. Okay, so please finish. Please be that great neighbor, and good luck running that business. And I mean that. Just be a good neighbor while you're doing it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
May I move that we postpone this till our next meeting and consider revocation if the items aren't corrected?
Okay. A motion made and seconded that we postpone this. Questions or comments?
I have one question, and Kevin, I guess you're the one who can answer this. The 2 dumpsters, I know that one is allowed when you have an open building permit. Do we have rules about how long a building permit can remain open? As long as somebody's moving forward, could he move forward for 10 years and have that second dumpster?
Building permits are open for 1 year.
1 year,
After
okay.
that, they either renew them or they have to bring the dumpster.
And you can renew them how many times, forever?
Well,
As long as you're
Actively building.
that,
you have to show some progress.
Okay, thank you.
then I want to make a comment about,
I'll be done probably a month or 2 months.
Well, the second,
All right.
well, that I think addresses my comment. I was concerned about the second dumpster, because I'd like to see all of these conditions met. We visited the property before we gave the conditional use permit, and Mr. Dunlop assured us that he intended to comply with all these, and that he was intent to get his business well established, then move to a commercial property, and then that was going to be residential property. And it continues to remain commercial property. I would hate to see that in perpetuity.
Yep.
And I think he needs to move on to establishing his business and move into a commercial property. And in the meantime, okay, all these conditions need to be met.
Okay.
and it looks like you're moving forward. I see your vision. So.
I did. I see some positive steps. All right, so we have a motion made to table this until the next meeting. Judy, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman? Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer. Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt. Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0 with 1 abstention.
Okay. Next item under new business is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Hodges and Hodges Enterprises Limited for redecking of the Renz Road pump out pier.
Skip one again.
Where did I skip us? I'm sorry. Well, just go with it. Anyway, approval of an amendment to the 2007 Economic Development Incentive Agreement with Unity Business Systems.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Kellis is here if you'd like a detailed presentation. If council members will recall that about the time that the Great Recession hit the city, right before, the city entered into an Economic Development Incentive Agreement with UBS. And then the recession broke out, and it not only hit here but other places. And there was a general understanding at that time that once the recession cleared, that the incentive agreement would need to be updated, that there was a reasonable amount of time to weather the recession before it began in earnest. What you find here is an updated version of that agreement. One thing that it does do, which I think is a secondary consequence, but a very important one, not only did UBS establish a business here, maintain a business here throughout the recession, but in a sense, we get 5 additional years beyond that in terms of commitment with UBS. The original agreement would have been 5 or 6 years. So during that time that UBS was weathering the recession, Mr. Long, who is the business owner, indicated that he had paid approximately $178,000 in business taxes during that period while they maintained their business, and this would simply amend it and take it forward to what we hope is a completion of the obligation 5 years from now, should you approve it. And I would note one additional feature. We've learned the lesson as we've gone through economic development incentives, and what you'll see here are it's broken into pieces. They're performance-based. Either they meet the performance expectation, and we continue on as the agreement was originally intended, or they don't, and that piece of it is immediately corrected through a return of the incentive on a proportional basis going forward. So we wouldn't ever find yourself in a situation going forward that you might get to an end of an agreement. I'm not really talking about this one specifically, to find out you didn't meet it. Now what? It's very real time and performance based. And Dave, did I miss anything important?
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt the
I'll
resolution.
make a suggestion first. With reference to the resolution says authorize the city manager to execute the allowance to the note, but there's also a modification to the deed of trust. So there should actually be, wherever you see allowance to note dated September and modification to deed of trust should be added to this resolution.
Okay.
There are 2 documents, not
Right.
just
I
one.
see the existing deed of trust in here.
I'm sorry, I missed that when I read the
Okay.
resolution.
All right. Want to try that again there, buddy?
Yeah, try it again. Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution approving amendment to a 2007 deed of trust note for Long's Enterprises LLC and a modification to the deed of trust.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we continue this relationship. So that's a good thing. All right, questions or comments? All right, Judy, please.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, how about if we redeck the pier now? You want to speak on that, Bob?
Bob is prepared to speak on it.
All right, this is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Hodges and Hodges Enterprise Limited for redecking of the Renz Road pump out pier.
Mr. Mayor, members, council staff, Tom Jones, our Public Works Director, couldn't be with us tonight, and he asked me to step in and present this for you. We're looking to address the deterioration of the decking and handrail system on the existing Renz Road pier.
The pier was erected in '96, has served us very well. It's just time to replace some boards as you would your deck at home or anything like that. We went out to bid and received bids from 3 competent, qualified contractors. We did a double bid. One option was to replace it with like wood, and another was to replace it with a commercial product called Trex Transcend, which is an artificial type lumber.
Okay.
We're requesting to go with the Trex Transcend with a total price of $57,100. $55,000 of that was from the approved through the 2015 budget process, with the remaining balance coming from the Public Works budget.
Okay. So a long-term resolution, that's kind of what I like.
We're hoping for a longer-term resolution.
Yes, because, it's almost 20 years that we got out of the wood.
Yeah, how long does
Pretty
Trex
good.
last?
It is advertised as a 25-year residential warranty and a 25-year limited fade and stain warranty. Of course, on a commercial pier, that's going to be, as anything would in commercial use. It may vary.
It does tend to last longer than
Absolutely.
the
And
Okay.
it's a professional
So we could
opinion
get
of our
lucky.
local contractors. The quality, the process for treating wood, which used to be known as salt treating, pressure treating, is nowhere near what it used to be. I've personally witnessed salt treated material that didn't last a year once in service. So the quality of the lumber isn't there anymore.
Okay. All right, thanks, Bob. Any questions? Bob? All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Hodges and Hodges Enterprises LTD for the redecking of the Renz Road pump out pier.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any questions or comments? Okay, if none, Judy, please.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay. The next item under new business is a fiscal stability reserve fund and compensation. Randy, you want to lead us in this?
I'll be pleased to, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, this item really has 2 components, the most significant financially of which is a request to transfer $600,000 from the general fund balance in the amount that exceeds your general fund balance guideline, commonly referred to as the undesignated general fund balance, consistent with the city council's adopted financial policies established 2009 and 10. Essentially what this money would be for is to serve as a fiscal stability reserve. And its intended purpose, near term anyways, the city is looking at the prospect of, hopefully not, but we think we will, see one more overall negative reassessment. The numbers keep getting smaller, the negative numbers, and we're trending absolutely in the right direction, but we may have one more in us. So the staff's intention of bringing this to you is to ask to transfer that money to the stability fund so that if in fact we do have that, that we can utilize this rather than a tax rate adjustment for what we think will be a 2-year revenue fluctuation. So we're trying to guard against the need for a future tax increase because of the upcoming reassessment. Would note to you and to the public, when the council established this fund component as part of the financial guidelines that ultimately together helped move us to AAA, at that time the goal of $1 million reserve fund was established at the same time. However, clearly it was an aspirational goal. There was no time limit associated with it. Everybody recognized certainly that we were in the midst of a recession, and this was not something that's intended to get to overnight. But it's working towards that goal and establishing what I hope to be an unnecessary, but I believe to be needed safeguard against the need for a tax rate adjustment due to the next reassessment cycle, which I think we would all like to avoid if at all possible. The second component here, as council members will recall from your budget discussions, you had a number of issues that you were working towards, a number of objectives. One of those objectives related to increasing compensation. This particular amount here is being brought forward to get at a portion of that with a $75,000 mid-year adjustment to use throughout the city government. One thing to be mindful of, the source of the funding here is ongoing cost savings associated with improvements in non-health insurance-related items in the city budget. For example, the most significant of which is workers' compensation. We've are through the fact that we have some pretty significant claims that have come off and also increased diligence by everyone, our rates are actually improving. So this is an ongoing revenue source that we carry into the following fiscal year and beyond. And we're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Not, is there a motion on the ordinance?
I move that we adopt an ordinance making additional appropriations and transfers for fiscal year 2014-15.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that we approve this ordinance. Final questions or comments on the ordinance? Not, Judy, please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
And is there a motion on the resolution authorizing a mid-year compensation adjustment?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing a mid-year compensation adjustment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded that we approve that as well. Final questions or comments? Not, Judy, please.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay. Now, we do have one item here that, I guess I'm missing something out of my package here.
Yes, sir, there was one additional item added.
Let me announce it, and then, if you don't mind. It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to make a direct payment to the Commonwealth of Virginia for local aid to the Commonwealth, as refers to them paying us to, run their schools or whatever. But now that I've said my piece, go ahead.
This is not one that any staff likes to bring. As council members and the community may recall, prior to this most recent budget year, one of the objectives of both the previous governor, the current governor, the General Assembly, and local governments was to discontinue this practice by which the state essentially took back a portion of what they gave us and insulted us further by calling it state aid to localities because it's a negative number. And that was successfully done away with in the last budget. However, because of the deterioration of the state's financial condition late spring and through the summer, that has been, unfortunately, had to be reinstated. And hopefully, for all involved, that's not a permanent thing, but it is likely to persist through at least these two biennium, I believe. Our choices are, we can write them a check back for a portion of the money they provide to us. They can simply reduce it out of what they're going to pay us, or we can make reductions in the areas that they provide some amount for. It's all up to us. Consistent with your past practice, we bring you a resolution that says rather than to work through, there's no way to polish this to make it shiny. We just cut them a check back.
Cut 'em a check. I'd much rather just cut them a check, so.
Me too.
So that's what this is, and I apologize for the ad. We received this on about the 18th of November with an indication that if you did not act by the end of December, that they would simply choose one of those other two options and actually take it out of the revenue stream coming in.
So the amount here is $19,141.
Yeah, and we could logically assume a similar number for the following fiscal year as well.
That's about 2 paraeducators, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. Okay, just, got it. Okay, so we will cut the state a check for $19,100 and help them solve their budget woes.
We need a
I'll move that.
He made a move.
I second that we, but on the bottom of the check, can we put a little symbol on it? And I'll get with whoever writes the check and show them what kind of symbol.
Absolutely.
In protest.
Maybe we could pay him in $1 bills or something in the
Maybe we let a
future.
paraeducator take it up and give it to him. Okay, all right, so we have a motion made and seconded to rate that check to the state. And is there any final questions or gestures for the, let's save the gestures. But Judy, please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, comments of the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 things this evening. I'll try to be brief. One, I just wanted to thank all of the people, from the people who do it for a living, to the volunteers, to the children, to the families, to the businesses, everyone that helped make last Friday's parade such a neat thing. One of my friends texted me, and he said, "This is why we live here." And I think that's right. It's a sense of community, and it was great. So, Dave, I know you had nothing to do with it, but please pass it on to your staff.
He's busy changing the words on the sign.
That's right. A reminder to the public of the Lighted Boat Parade, which is this coming Saturday, White House Cove. If you've never seen that, it's really, really cool. And lastly, a reminder to the public that City Council will be meeting with the school board in joint session this Wednesday at Poquoson High School at 6 p.m., and the public is welcome to attend. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you. Bud?
Yes, I'd like to thank Krista Edolph, Jennifer Mostella, and Bill Thomas for coming out here tonight and making their presentations. We really appreciated every comment that they made, and I'd also like to personally thank Randy and all the city staff for their excellent work and support of the city council. I mean, this is a thick package, and there's a lot of detail that goes into this, and they did an excellent job, okay? And even on the one that we put off, okay, they gave us excellent detail and gave us everything we asked for in that. And so, thank you very much.
Second, and happy holidays to everybody.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Vice Mayor.
I just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas.
Councilman Bernal?
The main topics have been touched upon. I think everyone that certainly prepared their floats for the parade certainly was a way upgrade from what previous years have been, and certainly was added to the overall quality of the parade. And thanks everybody for that, and also, of course, everybody have a safe and happy holiday season.
Councilman Green?
Yes, sir. A couple things. I'd like to thank the York Poquoson Social Services for hosting our last food bank distribution. We set records. We served 64 families, which equates to 223 people. I'd like to personally thank our anonymous donor who gave us 40 turkeys to pass out, which meant a lot to the families that received them. That was a big help. And also to remind everybody that this month, because of the Christmas holiday, it will be on the third Tuesday, which is the 16th of December from 10 to 1, and the Kirkwood Presbyterian Church will be hosting. And also, as it relates to the article in the paper today about Lambs Creek, I would like to, not to put any more work on Ellen, but I would like to see the staff aggressively cooperate with York County and try to get that dredging done. And I'm also thinking that maybe the City of Newport News Waterworks should share in that, as they had a little incident with their dam that silted it up quite a bit. So I'd like to see us aggressively go after that and get it done.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Eric.
I'd like to second everything everyone has said, and like to wish an early birthday to the Grand Marshal, Danny Forrest, who will be 103 on the 14th of this month. And I've been fortunate to drive the lead car with the Grand Marshal for a lot of years. And I remember most of them, but I'll never forget her. And that was quite an evening for everybody involved, and just a well-done thing as usual, Dave, and your crew.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, one more thing, Gene.
Well, go ahead.
I am selling pause calendars. Okay.
All heard y'all were giving away cats at the next.
Cats. Next parade, we're giving away cats.
That's what I picked up on. I'd like to close out this year, because this is the last meeting that we'll have this year, thanking council. It's been an eventful year. I think we've made some good strides together. I know several of you just were reelected. I think that's kind of an endorsement of the good things that we're doing. And with that said, there's a couple little housekeeping items that I would like to do. One, I'm looking for basically a head nod. I'm getting ready to send a letter to Tommy Norman and to Gordon that basically implores them to reward fully accredited schools such as Poquoson with economic incentives. It's my opinion, and I think that I share this opinion with everybody here, that there seems to be a financial reward for not doing good, but no financial reward for being fully accredited from multiple years. And my purpose in this letter is to make them aware of that formally and to ask for help for our city school system. Any issues there?
Go for it.
Thank you very much for that.
All right, the second thing is to let y'all know that through great consternation and talking to a lot of you, that I've decided to let Councilwoman Crawford be our representative to the Planning District Commission. I think we agreed on that was probably a good idea.
Sounds like a winner to me.
It sounds like a winner. Everybody likes a good appointment.
Thanks.
So-
I've been laying low,
So
so.
until further notice, you will be our Planning District Commission representative, which means you will get to join Buddy and I in Chesapeake once a month. So it's fun. And then that's all I have, except for to wish everyone at home a Merry Christmas. And as I said at the Christmas tree lighting, the one thing that I ask of every citizen for this holiday season is that they look around their neighborhoods and they seek out those in need, and that they do something about it this holiday season. We are a very affluent city, but that does not mean that we don't have people that need help. So please, look in your neighborhood and your neighbors and try and make a difference in someone's life this holiday season. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Yes, ma'am.
May I have an opportunity? I'd like to, you all have expressed appreciation and applauded the efforts of staff for the parade and the event, but there's an unknown person in the background that does the majority of the work on the parade. And sometimes we forget those people that we don't always see here in our council meetings. But Debbie Mahanes was solely responsible for the parade, and I think it was the most wonderful parade we've ever had. I've seen it grow every year and become better and better, but this year was the best ever. And I just think that Debbie, because she never gets to come to your meetings, that we should recognize her. And so I'm
Very good. Well said, and thank you for that. Now, a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Does anybody really want to talk about that?
No.
Okay.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Bernal,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Ayer,
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford,
Aye.
and Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you very much, and we are adjourned.